Hey everyone, it's Ryan Henry with INSPIREsmall.biz, and on this episode of the Bright Ideas Show, we talk about a fantastic organization that can help save somebody's life. Don't miss today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Bright Ideas Show, where each week we feature local leaders here in the Indianapolis area and share their stories with you and how it makes an impact on everybody's life in the community. Today my guest is Jeff Utzinger and Bill Schlies, the founders of Be Like Bill. Guys, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Ryan, how are you doing? Thanks for having us.
I am great. Thank you for being on the show. So your guys' story was kind of a chance meeting that had a huge impact on the outcome of Jeff's life. And before we get to that story, let's learn a little bit about the two of you. And Jeff, we'll start with you first, and then we'll go Bill. So give us a little bit of a background on what you do professionally, and are you a lifetime resident of Central Indiana? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I've spent the better part of close to 30 years now in the recruitment and talent acquisition space. I've graduated from a high school, Carmel High School in northern Indiana, or north side of Indianapolis. Moved away for several years and found ourselves back here about 23 years ago. So it's home now.
Nice. And Bill, how about you?
Ryan, I moved the family here in May of '07. I am managing partner of a company called Janiking. We're in a commercial cleaning business.
Oh, nice.
A franchise company. I started with them in the Schaumburg area in Illinois back in '93, so I've been with them for almost 30 years as well. But been here since '07. My kids, Mike and Katie, went to Carmel High School. My wife, Jill, we've been married 31 years coming up this month.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And so, yeah, I would consider Indy home.
Nice.
Sure, yes.
And Bill, we were just talking before we went on air that we've both been able to see Chicago Blackhawks games at the old Chicago Stadium. So that's a pretty cool memory to be able to share.
That and see Michael Jordan there as well.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. But yeah, the 90s was all about the Bulls.
Yes.
So guys, let's talk a little bit about, you had a very interesting chance meeting that really was a life-saving opportunity. So share with our viewers, how did you guys get to know each other?
Well, we live in a neighborhood in Carmel, Bay Hill, large neighborhood. I don't know, Jeff, 500 or 600 homes.
Oh, wow.
I got up regular morning, had a little bit later than normal, had my cup of coffee and talked to the wife and had a cup of Joe and then headed out the door. I don't know, about halfway into the trip, I was on the phone and I came across Jeff, who was, at that point, he was lying on the ground. He was out for a run. I didn't know that, but he had suffered cardiac arrest.
Holy crap.
So I got out of the car and immediately dialed 911. And then I was on the phone with the 911 operator for the full 5 minutes before the police got there. She instructed me was he breathing, was he not breathing? Identified he wasn't breathing. And she said, you need to start compressions immediately. So I started compressions and did compressions until the police officer arrived.
Oh, wow. And so, Jeff, you had no signs that anything was wrong before this event, right? It was just a regular morning for you where you go out and all of a sudden this happened?
Yeah, Ryan, that's right. I had no existing conditions. I tried to take pretty good care of myself. I was out for a run, and Bill's better to tell this part of the story because I have no memory of anything after the night before this happened.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
remember getting up, having my cup of Joe, going on the run. I remember nothing. And I wake up later that night after being unconscious in a coma for that day, and everyone telling me what had happened. And I just couldn't get my head around it because I didn't know the difference between cardiac arrest and a heart attack, because they are different. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, well, that's why I was out for a run. That's why I exercise and eat well for the most part to prevent this kind of thing. And what we have found out, we can get into in a little bit, is that it's not about anything other than sometimes luck, because it takes the lives of, again, we can get into this, but more people than it should, because it's preventable if people like this guy jump in and act, and AEDs and all of that stuff that again we can chat about. But yeah, I had, and there's still no medical or physical reason that it happened. It just happened. Yep, something electrical misfired. Sometimes there's a cause for cardiac arrest, but after a number of tests, as you can imagine, there's been no reason that it happened. No pre-existing conditions. Just
wow. And so you said having no recollection of the day. Mm-hmm. So then you met Bill after you had recovered and woken up in the hospital, right?
Well, it's funny, Ryan. I didn't meet Bill for, I think, a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So, he found out through this Nextdoor app how, who I was, mm-hmm. because I was admitted as a John Doe. They weren't going to tell him anything because of, HIPAA laws and regulations. But through this Nextdoor app, he got connected with, I think I know a little bit about this situation. My wife's one of her best friends put it out there and said, "Does anyone know what happened?" And he says, "Yeah, I think I might know a little something about that." So that week I was in the hospital, he had come over to the house and met, my family. And I don't remember, but they had told me, wait till you meet this guy. I mean, not only, right, are you're going to be thankful that he saved your life, because make no mistake, and I'll say it a few more times, Ryan, I'm only here because of this guy. But not only that, this guy's amazing. Anyway, we would have been, we're best friends now. We would have been best friends if we met under normal circumstances. Make no mistake.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And so, Bill, what was that process like? So you did compressions, the police arrived, they were able to get Jeff to an ambulance and a hospital where they saved his life. So yes. Walk us through those events that happened after the police arrived.
So, you're doing the compressions, and he had, I have no medical training at all. People ask, so were you scared? Yeah, I was. I asked the Lord to help me, and he did. He helped us both. As he's with us every day, he was definitely with us that morning. But I could hear the sirens, and I could hear him getting closer, and I'm thinking, this is awesome. They're getting help. Real help is on the way, because I don't know if I'm doing things the right way or not exactly. I don't know the situation. So the officer pulled up, Officer Lovett pulled up, and I looked over my shoulder, and he was carrying a device in his hand, and he rushed over to Jeff, and that device was an AED. He immediately started assessing the situation, and inside a minute, he had the AED hooked up to Jeff, and it did call for a shock, and it told us to clear. Okay. And it was kind of like what you see on the TV shows, when it, 3, 2, 1 shock, it shocked him good.
Wow.
And then it said start compressions, and at that time, Officer Lovett started the compressions again. And in the meantime, paramedics were pulling up, and they came over and started to assist Officer Lovett. And at that point in time, he did have a pulse.
Oh, nice.
So that did shock his heart back into some sort of normal-ish rhythm. And but he was still unconscious, and they strapped him to a board and intubated him and put him in the ambulance, and away he went. And I was sitting there swimming in a lot of emotion, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
What just happened? Is he going to be okay? I got a call a little bit later from the Carmel Police Department, and they wanted to know, did you see him go down? Because that was their biggest concern. He was unconscious, and was he down for 5 minutes? Is his brain okay? Where is he at that way? And they wouldn't tell me who he was. And I remember going home and talking to my wife, and I'm a competitive person, so I was like, he's got to be okay. He's got to be okay. Got to be okay. Got to be okay. Got to find out who he is. And so I did find out the next morning through his wife reaching out to Colleen Stein, mm-hmm. that he lived. And that was awesome. And his wife was with him, and didn't know how things were going to turn out, but he knew he was alive and his life was with him. So
Nice.
pretty exciting.
And so when you heard that Jeff was alive and going to recover, who initiated the first outreach? Who reached out to who?
I got a call from Jeff's brother the next day, which would have been it happened on a Monday, and so he reached out on a Tuesday. He had driven in from the Chicagoland area, I believe. He was there on some business, and he called and left me this message. I gotta, we got my mom and dad are in town, and you got to come over, and here's the address, and we got to meet you. And that was the door opens, and me and Jeff's brother hug, and you're sobbing, you're crying, and then you look over at his mom and dad, and they're both doing the same thing. And so we are definitely an extended family.
Nice.
Definitely.
I needed to restock the beer fridge after that week. It deservedly so. So back, Ryan, to your question for me, when I got out of the hospital, Bill, I think, had gone on a fishing trip. And then the week after that, we had a week planned up in Michigan, where we're from. So it was a few weeks later before Bill and I actually met. And I'll never forget that day.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that day.
So what was that meeting like? You guys were finally able to look face to face, and Jeff, you were on the recovery, and Bill, you had saved Jeff's life. Walk us through, how did that interaction go?
Well, it was, again, it's hard. Jeff has said it. It's just hard to explain what the emotion and feeling is like, right? A lot of hugs. I had met his wife. I still hugged her because she's good looking. And so Jill, my wife, and the four of us sat there, and I don't know, 3-4 hours. We sat at their table and just
laughed and cried.
And Jeff says that we'd have been friends anyway, and he's so right on that. And I could tell that when I first met his family, the good things they said about him and the dad and the husband and the brother and the son and all that. I knew we were going to get along. So that was. I knew that wasn't going to be an issue at all, but it was a special night.
Yeah, Ryan, if you've ever, for anyone that's like gotten the house ready for your boss coming over, or you just, or meet me in-laws for the first time, or whatever it may be. It was that kind of, let's make sure everything's perfect. And when that door opens and you're looking at the guy who's, the reason that you're alive, you're right, Bill, you can't explain it. There were laughs, there were tears, there were more laughs, there were more tears. There's another bottle of wine open, and we've been now lifelong friends. I feel like I've known the guy for 100 years.
Nice. And so at what point did you have the conversation about starting Be Like Bill?
Yeah, so it was a couple months, Ryan, after the event, and just getting my head around what the heck happened, as I mentioned earlier, about heart attack, cardiac arrest, and the difference, and understanding now that cardiac arrest kills 1,000 people a day.
Wow.
1,000 people a day. Survival rates are 7%. And when they're unwitnessed, Bill mentioned this earlier, he did not see me go down, so there was no record of how long I was out. But that 7% survival rate goes down 10% for every minute that interaction or CPR in an AED isn't used.
Wow.
So the math gets a little above my head on that. But point is, unwitnessed, I had about a 3% chance of living.
Wow.
No one knew how long I was without oxygen, right? So yes, I was saved. Bill got my heart beating, the AED got my heart back in rhythm. He kept, through CPR, kept blood flowing throughout the body. AED got the heart back in rhythm, but there was still no way of knowing what kind of damage was done. And I'll get to your question in a second, this is really important. But so when my wife got there, I was admitted as a John Doe. Finally, they connected the dots and whatnot, and they said, we're just going to have to see if he wakes up, and if he does, what his mental capacity is going to be. Because again, no one saw me go down. No one knew how long I was out.
Wow.
It had to have been within a couple minutes. Otherwise, no matter how good he was, and no matter how quick the AED gets there, it's not going to matter. So what I mean by that is just getting an understanding of all of this stuff, the stats and the how lucky I was and all that. And I'm sitting there, and it's funny, back to Colleen Stein, Daniel Amalia's daughter, sitting around the kitchen table, and she said, she's been through her own, tragic experience, as you know, and she's like, you really need to do something with this. And like, what do you mean? It's like, I don't know, just have a mantra or whatever it is. And, I'm thinking to myself, and I actually said out loud, I don't know if the world needs another, life is short, you only get one life. It's called the present for a reason, all of that stuff.
Right.
Because there's a lot of that stuff. Not that I don't subscribe to it, but, I was like, I don't know. And she pushed and she pushed and she pushed. And together we came up with Be Like Bill. I mean, how apt is that? Be somebody that's going to jump in and do something, whether it's in a cardiac emergency or whether it's somebody needing help with their groceries. I mean, it's in either extreme.
Yeah.
And I do. I think we've become a society a bit fearful of getting involved, whether it's litigious reasons or, health reasons or whatever it is. But I thought, Ryan, I've been given this gift of a second life. And there's it's just, I mean, as literal as that statement can be. So I personally felt it would be a shame if we didn't do something with that gift that I've been given.
So, and just to go in on that is it took me a long time to want to be involved with anything that relived the situation. As Jeff said, he doesn't remember it. I do, and it was that we got a hold of the full 911 call, and Jeff and his wife listened to it, and they said, Bill, you got to listen to it. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. And finally I did.
Because he was amazing. I mean, he was. You talk about think about that for a second. My life is in his hands. Never done CPR. And, he said he's got to do chest compressions. She told him, the dispatcher, the 911 dispatcher said, you're going to have to do 600 compressions. You actually hear him say, 600?
Yeah.
Like, really?
What? Yeah.
And he was calm under pressure. He was. That's why I was pushing him so bad to you got to listen to this. You got to listen to it. You were amazing. And he finally did.
And then once we get through all that, it was really easy to put together and say, we have to do something good with this. It is a miracle story, as Jeff said, 3%, you look at it and say, if we can, you've heard it again, if you can help one person, if you can help save one life, it's worth it, and that's really a true statement.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how Jeff really got this going, and then we've taken it from there to try to do good in the communities. So
nice.
But it wasn't an easy choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it is. My wife had said, isn't just living through this enough? And because it's hard for her, right? Because it's easy for me to say, yeah, let's just do something. I'll tell my story because I don't remember it. I wasn't in a cancer ward for a year, fighting for it. And I'm not comparing the two at all, but not having a memory, it's easy for me to.
You don't have the trauma. That's
I don't have the trauma.
with you.
Exactly right, Ryan. And him, Bill, and my wife, and my kids all do. So, it's hard, but I think it would be a shame not to do some good, like Bill said, with this story.
Nice. And so, guys, once you did agree to start the organization, let's talk a little bit about what your mission is and what Be Like Bill is and what you're doing for your community.
Well, I think there's a two-part answer to that. Mm-hmm. I think Jeff hit on this just a second ago. Is one part is just helping others. One part is just you see somebody in need and you stop and help, no matter what the situation is, the circumstances are. Like I mentioned, I had no idea. You don't think sudden cardiac arrest. You think he have a cramp or he fell down, or you don't think the worst. But I think the idea of just helping others, that's the first step. Once we do that, now we spread the word on, okay, let's get AEDs out in the community, and then you can kind of speak to that a little bit about what we're doing on that front.
Yeah, Ryan, it's like Bill said, it's absolutely two parts. It's the awareness, what cardiac arrest is. It kills, as I mentioned, 1,000 people a day in this country. And sometimes there is a reason for it. Sometimes there's not, like mine.
Like DeMar Hamlin?
Yeah, DeMar Hamlin for the Buffalo Bills on a Monday night game in Cincinnati takes just a normal routine football hit to the chest at the wrong time, and it's cardiac arrest. And commotio cordis, that's just one symptom. There's other ones, but it was the same thing. And so there is the awareness on what it is, what to do. Don't be afraid, even if you don't know CPR. Pound on the chest, even if you don't know the actual right way to do it, right? It doesn't matter. And then the other part is, okay, so what are we going to do? You know, our mission, Ryan, is to increase survival rates from SCA, sudden cardiac arrest victims. Twofold: awareness, what to do, and then having the other machine, the other piece of that, which is the AED, because both have to be in place. You have to do CPR and have an AED within 4 minutes, or the person's not going to live.
Wow.
And luckily, we live in a community where the police officers all have AEDs. And 5 years prior to my accident, they didn't. They didn't have. In fact, we just helped a Southern Indiana police force get a few AEDs. On their 8 cars, they had none.
Wow.
And again, they're often the first responder.
Right,
they're always the first responders.
Yeah.
Because, backstep for a second, he did CPR for 4 minutes. In Carmel, Indiana, a pretty populated area, that's how long it took the Carmel police to get there. Not an indictment, no, just
But
how long it takes.
That's still pretty good given the
It is,
average in the US.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the EMT, if he wouldn't have had an AED, if Officer Lovett, the EMT took another 3.5 minutes to get to me.
So now
They have AEDs, but now we're talking 7.5 minutes without shocking. So, getting back to your question, getting more AEDs out there. And we do a lot of fundraising to raise money to buy and donate AEDs where they're needed.
Nice.
As well as the piece, we talk to a health class every semester down at IUPUI, and that's geared towards awareness and not being afraid. These AEDs are a 10-year-old could pull one off the wall. You open it up, it talks to you. It talks you through everything. And I think people see an AED, and I had no idea what one was prior to this incident. And so if I saw one, I'm thinking back, would I have pulled it off the wall and tried to use it? Probably not. Mm-hmm. But they've come so far now, is you're not pushing a button. You hook them up, and it's going to shock or it's not going to shock. So if he's not in sudden cardiac arrest and his heart's beating, you can hook him up, and it's not going to shock him. So you don't have anything to worry about on that front.
So then it's set up that in a situation where it's needed and you grab it, you don't have to know what you're doing. The machine's going to take over and administer the shock only when it's necessary.
Correct.
But then it comes back to having that awareness of continuing to do chest compressions if necessary.
Unfortunately, we've now that we've met people in the same situation that have lost a child or lost a family member, people at school, and there's video and there's an AED on the wall and no one grabs it because they're afraid. They're afraid to use it, or they don't know how to use it, or they're worried about harming the individual even more. But you could be sitting in a bar and your buddy goes over in a stool because he's had too many Oberons, or Two-Hearted, or Guinnesses, or want me to stop? And it wouldn't shock you. You could hook him up to it even if he's passed out, and it's not going to shock you if his heart's beating. So there absolutely is a next to zero risk of giving it a shot.
And they're cheap. They're $1,000, depending on refurbished or brand new.
It's a cell phone.
It's a cell phone.
People spend that on the newest iPhone that comes out every year.
Yes. Yep.
So guys, let's talk now, since you're trying to get more AEDs in more places, how can people make a donation if they would like to see more AEDs actually happen? Yeah,
we have a website, which is belikebill.org, where you can donate there. We are revamping that website. It's been kind of duct tape and whatnot effort at this point, but we're getting some great help with with a local organization to help us with this.
Nice.
TBH Creative.
Yes.
And
Excellent.
but we can still take donations. But we want to get specific. You could sponsor an AED, what we're calling it. Say, I want it to go here, and then you can brand it if you want.
Oh,
I think
nice.
when it comes to a life-saving event, a lot of organizations say, you know what, I don't need my name on it. That's not what this is about. However, there's nothing wrong with that either. So there's branding on the cabinets. There's and again, they're inexpensive, but $5 goes a long way. $5 goes a long way. Again, considering how inexpensive relative to what they can do, how inexpensive they are.
And so organizations that could utilize an AED in their facility, is there a way for them to reach out to you and say, hey guys, I would really like to have one of these devices here?
Yep. So we've got, we're at this point a smaller organization. We don't have hundreds of units we're just waiting to give out. But we have a few right now that aren't doing any good in my basement. But I can also get them at cost.
Nice.
Right. So it's because Be Like Bill is nonprofit. We have a great relationship with a couple of the AED manufacturers, and we're a nonprofit partner to them.
Nice.
Foundation partner, and then we can get them, for about half the cost that you see online.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, guys, since awareness is also part of your mission, how can someone contact you if they would like to invite you to come and talk about the risks and dangers of sudden cardiac arrest?
Well, assuming we haven't turned anybody off from this podcast on doing that. But Bill, I don't want to speak for Bill, but we actually love doing this, Ryan. We do, and not just because we think it's going to save a life, which we believe that wholeheartedly, multiple lives, but we just like doing it. Again, a little easier for me.
Yeah.
This is pretty good for him. He's usually crying by now. He's big fat, but I don't remember, so I'm like, this is great, right? This guy saved my life. But we do. We love doing it. We've done it in crowds of 5. We've done it in front of crowds of 1,000. Just to, get that message out there, and just, you can go to belikebill.org. You can call me at my cell number. Share it. 317-698-2225. Jeff at belikebill.org is my email, and we get really excited about doing this kind of stuff, just to answer these kind of questions, because whether they have an AED, whether we're the ones that donate one or sell one or whatever, because it's not a money-making thing for us. It's neither one, as you heard earlier, our day jobs.
Yeah.
We're not AED salesmen, but it's a passion, and so regardless of just the awareness, I think, to Bill's first point on the dual mission here is not more important than having an AED, but that's kind of a byproduct. But just that awareness on what to do and not to be hesitant.
Nice. And so, guys, with 2024 being just like a little more than a week or so away, or a couple weeks now from when we're airing this, what do the two of you see Be Like Bill doing in the new year?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. Well, we have worked with the City of Carmel, and their PADS program to put AEDs on the Monon Trail.
Oh, nice.
And they also would like to see them in all of their parks, and we've offered some assistance in helping to supply AEDs for that. The donations and some of the fundraising stuff that we've done, like Jeff said, we have a few, and we just donated one to the Indiana hockey program. They didn't have one.
Oh,
so
nice.
now when they travel to their tournaments, the trainer will also carry an AED with them, because you just never know.
Yeah.
You just never know when it's going to happen. And unfortunately, we see it a lot in athletics.
Yeah.
We have a lot of what we've done and donated has gone to athletic type programs, training type facilities. But we're always looking for other ideas and where we can help, get AEDs to people that need them.
It's the biggest killer of youth athletes in the country, and because there's again a lack of awareness, and that the lack of having an AED on a practice field where my kids played lacrosse and they're out. Lacrosse is one of those sports here in the Midwest where you're out practicing in a field a lot of times because it's still kind of a newer sport. But
Yeah.
what happens if, and when he said carrying AED around, you're not in a gym at a big high school where they're always going to be available. They're youth football, youth lacrosse. They're just practicing out in the middle of nowhere. So that is where a lot of our efforts have gone.
And I think to your question, we had just the privilege of going to an IU and speaking to the whole football team. It was a few months ago, but the whole Damar Hamlin thing was fresh in everybody's mind, and there was some fear in the room. You're a Division I college athlete, you're playing football, and you see that happen, and there's some fear. And so we were able to go, and I think through education, that takes some of that fear away. And so by sharing our story and going through what we're doing as our mission, I think we touched some people, and they were very attentive. It was great. It was a great meeting to see the guys, and Coach Allen was a great host.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
And so I'd like to bring up, at least here in Indiana, we have a Good Samaritan law
Correct.
that protects people in Bill's situation, where if you're trying to save somebody's life, you're generally shielded from any potential legal liability that could come from something going wrong, right?
That's correct. Correct. Yep. 100%.
Yeah, and Ryan, on top of that too, I think there's a little apprehension with the AED of A, what it is, B, how to use it, that we've covered, and C, the legal risks of what happens if I don't use it correctly or if I don't. It falls under the Good Samaritan law. And there's a Sudden Cardiac Arrest Survival Act passed by Congress about 20 years ago that protects people that are trying to do good. And, Bill mentioned a few minutes ago, an AED not pulled off the wall. If it's used, first of all, it's not going to work. But that's, again, some of the unknown and the miseducated, the lack of understanding of what it is. But similarly with this medical device that is putting a lot of jewels to a body, you're also protected. And that concerns, that's a big concern for organizations too, on what happens if it doesn't work. What happens if you have it and you're trying, similar to if you do CPR, you're protected.
And one of the things you mentioned, CPR, they call it chest compressions now because it's not necessary to do mouth to mouth.
Right.
So,
Thankfully.
Because then maybe we won't be so friends.
Let me be the first one to say that.
I've driven right by. But it was, I didn't know that. I mean, I thought it was going to be, 10 or 20 compressions and then a breath. And then when she said 600, I'm like, oh, heck, the cops will be here before I'm done with 600. Because I'm golden. Let's go.
So one more time, tell viewers how they can get onto your website, make a donation, or soon, once it's deployed, learn more about the information that Be Like Bill has to offer people.
Yeah, sure, Ryan. Our website is belikebill.org. My email is jeff@belikebill.org, and my phone number is 317-698-2225. And again, whether it's, explaining how you can get an AED, training on an AED that you may have. I did that not too long ago. They had one and it wasn't out of the box. And they'd had it for 6 months. So they did good by getting it, but it's like, right? So training on the AED, I think the biggest thing is just telling our story. Our story, making sure people feel empowered and at ease with jumping in the case of an emergency.
Yeah, and I think that on the website there is a video that was done professionally, which is a reenactment with real 911 call on it. And again, it's a moving story. I would suggest if you get to the website, take a look at that. It does explain, you get to see other players in the story, Jeff's family and so my family and my dog and wife. And so anything helps. Like Jeff said, if you have a similar story and want to share it, if you had an event that didn't turn out so well and you feel bad about it and want to share it and talk to a couple of guys about it, just give us a buzz, reach out to us, and be happy to sit down, have some coffee, and discuss things with you, and hopefully can make your life better.
That brings up a really good point, Bill, is the support that everybody needs, especially when dealing with such a traumatic situation. It's good to be able to talk about it with somebody who has had a very similar experience in life and start to process those real emotions.
Yeah, we, as I mentioned, we do a talk at this health class at IUPUI, and the professor always sends us questions. She asks the students write down questions for the survivor and the Good Samaritan, and they're always a lot alike, right? Mm-hmm. Semester after semester, were you scared? What do you know? Right. What do you remember? Why did you have it? You know, right. And so this last one we did, a young boy stood up and said, a young man, I guess, stood up and said that he had a similar situation that didn't turn out so well, and he felt really guilty about it. Oh, no. And there were some tears, mm-hmm. and it's in front of your peers, and we gave him a big hug. I talked to the professor since then, and she said that day helped him so much, just to be able to talk about it and hear our story, even though ours is different. You know, there's some similarities to what he went through, to what I went through, and I felt for him. I really felt for him because I later thought about it that night, and as I was sitting that night that had happened with Jeff, with my wife on the deck, I was like, he's got to be okay. He's got to be okay. And she's like, you did everything you can. You did everything you could. And I had to come to terms with it. I did everything I could. Fortunately, ours worked out fantastic, and in this case, this young guy's didn't. And your heart break for him because you're trying to do something really good, and it didn't turn out well.
Yeah, Ryan, real quick on that point, you know, the fact that we've talked about the abysmal survival rates, right? That means a lot of people are on the other end of this. Well, my wife, everyone asks how I'm doing. Like, I got up and I'm fine. It wasn't a heart attack. I didn't need a stent put in. Like, it was just something electrical. My heart, I still work out, no restrictions, whatever. Nobody asks, you know, how Christine's doing. Really, nobody's asking how Bill doing. It's always the patient.
Right.
But, you know, if anybody's out there that, again, as Bill said, that either was on unfortunately, the more majority side of this, or it's you know, we've got, you know, my wife's not part of this necessarily, but she's a good advocate for, you know, just connecting with people that are on her side of it, you know, instead of my side.
And kind of, I don't remember exactly what the numbers are, but when compressions are used and then there's an AED available and is applied, what do those statistics jump to?
Over 60%. So you go from
3%,
give or take
7% to 60.
That's a huge difference.
Right.
Yeah. And so that helps drive us, you know, because we know if we get awareness and AEDs out there, it's going to save lives, period. That's the numbers don't lie. Yeah. So
nice. That's fantastic news. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming down to the studio today to share more about Be Like Bill. And to everyone watching, to learn more about Be Like Bill or to make a donation to help put AEDs everywhere possible, visit belikebill.org. Make sure to stay tuned here in just a moment to see more upcoming events from INSPIREsmall.biz. Hey everyone, check out these upcoming events from INSPIREsmall.biz. On Wednesday, January 3rd, we have our first Business First networking of the new year. That's at Old National Bank, 900 South State Road, 135 in Greenwood. Meeting starts at 10 o'clock a.m. Then on Thursday, January 4th, we have our next Keystone Business Connections meeting. That's at Old National Bank, 4805 East 96th Street in Indianapolis. Fast forward to Friday, January 12th, we have our first Business Spotlight monthly networking lunch of the new year. Our events are now moving to the Sagamore Club at 10900 Golden Bear Way in Noblesville, Indiana. Lunch specials are just $16. For these and more events from INSPIREsmall.biz and our members, visit www.inspiresmall.biz/events. Wishing you and your friends and family a very happy holiday and happy new year. We'll see you on the next episode of the Bright Ideas Show.